Cool. So before we begin the session and while we wait for a few more folks to join, hey, hi, Ravi. Thanks for joining. Hey, Anand. Perfect. So while we wait for a few more attendees to join and we begin the session today, I would like to give you all a quick overview about this session, the things that we are going to talk about, and a little bit about the community that we are building. So yeah, just I will share my screen very quickly. Rakesh, do let me know if you could see my screen.
Yeah, it's come out.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. So as you all know that the topic for today's discussion is about endpoint security. So we are going to talk about the basics and some AI era threats around endpoint security. We will begin by breaking down the topic of endpoint security, think of antivirus, DLP, MDM, encryption, and more. Then we will talk about the real impact of remote work on endpoint vulnerabilities. Then we will dive deeper into how AI is reshaping the threat landscape. Rakesh will tell us a few new tactics that he has seen and some new risks related to endpoint security. Then we will also talk about some smart, budget-friendly strategies for smaller security teams. Then we will also dive deeper into why your people might still be your weakest or strongest link. I will leave it like I leave you guys guessing for now, and we will dive deeper into it later. Then the last but not least, are traditional antiviruses still relevant? Well, before I introduce you all to the speaker for today's session, I would like to introduce you all to the 403 Circle community that we have been building. It's a community which is hosted on Slack. We have over 150 CTOs, CISOs, and senior tech leaders present in the community. We do a lot of community initiatives and events such as AMA sessions, city meetups, and expert-led sessions. And we do have a lot of channels where you as a member can ask your questions, or if you have any insights, you can share them in the relevant channels. A little bit about Astra security. So at Astra, we are building a continuous pen test platform that helps over 700 companies continuously scan their infrastructure for security vulnerabilities. Some of our product capabilities are pen test as a service, DAST vulnerability scanner, API security platform, and cloud vulnerability scanner. If you would like to know more about Astra's true capabilities, I will keep posting the link in the chat, and you can go and see what Astra is all about. Well, in time to introduce you all to the speaker, to our speaker for today's session, Raakesh Thayyil. He's the group head of security and privacy at PropertyGuru Group. And before we begin the session, just a some quick housekeeping rules. We will begin the session by a host curated Q&A with Rakesh. I do have a set of questions for Rakesh that I'm going to be asking him. Then we would open the floor towards the end of the session where you can drop your questions in the Q&A section, and we will address them towards the end. Again, this session will be recorded and the recording will be made available post the event. Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, without further ado, let's begin the session. All right, welcome Rakesh. Thanks a lot for agreeing to do this. Welcome. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Thanks, Priya, and thanks to Astra. I know you've been following up with me for almost a year, right? But I had not been able to join, but glad to be here. And thank you and Shekil for the invite.
Yeah. We're so glad to have you here finally. So, before we dive deeper into the technicalities of the topic, endpoint security, right? Endpoint security is a broad term, as we all know, which covers a lot of sub areas like antivirus softwares, DLP solutions, MDM tools, encryption, and more. For our listeners today who may not be deep into security jargon, could you simplify endpoint security and its main components, almost as if you are explaining it to a 5-year-old?
Right. So using analogies has always been my favorite, right? So let's think of a company and our digital footprint as a castle, right? So you have strong walls like your firewalls, your perimeter defenses, secure office networks. These are all your the walls of your castle, right? And now this castle walls have a lot of gates, which are your entry points. So you can think of these endpoint devices, whether they're laptops, tablets, your phones, smartphones, and these could be personal devices or company managed, company owned devices. And these endpoints are the gates to your network, your data, your resources. It doesn't have to be company resources from my browser, from a dying breed anyway, but I can still do that. Corporate resources, right? And it typically includes to protect this, and it's an essential part, right? If your endpoints are not protected, you're leaving a wide open entry point into your corporate network, into your corporate resources.
Got it.
And
Uh,
that is a very high level, right?
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but your voice seems to be breaking. Uh, like, if somebody in the chat could let me know if that's the, yeah, a couple of folks have mentioned that your voice is breaking.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Am I like audible?
Yeah, you're
All
audible.
right. Do you want me to repeat the first part?
Yeah, if you could touch
Right.
upon the last point here.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just repeat myself, and I will use an analogy of a castle, right, to describe your corporate network and your resources, and into this castle of ours, right? Now, these endpoints could be personal or company managed devices. They could be a combination of laptops, desktops, phones, tablets, or even browser-based access from anyone else's systems, right? I see that the chat says I'm still breaking up. Not sure why that is. 1 minute. Let me just try
Do you want
something.
to take a
Is it
minute and
better now?
it's better. Uh, can you like try to say something and then we'll see if
Okay, yeah. So I just turned off one of the endpoint security devices, which is a VPN. I hope that is a little better now. Right. So one hop
yeah, it's
reduced
better.
in.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
better.
All right. So when you again talk of endpoint security, you have to secure all of these various entry points into our network. Right. And there are a lot of different ways of doing it. And if you go into that, it's like a lot of different technologies, tools, processes, strategies that you can employ to protect all of these devices, right? Whether they are personal devices or whether they are corporate devices.
Got it.
And even if you're accessing from, let's say, browsers or those sort of tools, without where you are, the endpoint could keep varying, right?
Yeah.
I hope my audio is a bit better.
Yeah, it's definitely better than before, for sure. Uh, Folks, let us know if the voice is fine for you all. Cool. Okay, Adarsh says no. But I think it's a lot better than before for sure. Uh, Cool. So I think that was a very solid foundation that you have set for the endpoint security, and that it's an ecosystem of tools and policies working together to keep your devices safe. Now that we understand the basics, uh, let's revisit a recent turning point that really tested these systems, which was the overnight shift to remote work, right? When organizations had to suddenly shift from office based to remote work during the pandemic. What were the main endpoint security challenges you saw emerge? And were there any particular blind spots or areas companies were not prepared for?
Right. So what I'll do is I'm not sure what the background of the audience is, and I don't want to assume everyone comes from a security background, right? So what I'll do is I'll just quickly give you what are the components of endpoint security so that we are all on the same page before I go ahead, right? So you have the basics where you can think of it like antivirus, anti-malware. Most of our operating systems come with it, or you can procure or purchase these and use it, right? Second, which Priya already mentioned, is encryption. If you're using it for professional purposes, encryption is essential to protect data. Patch management, keeping your systems, applications, tools up to date. And the last is using the inbuilt firewalls or host intrusion protection systems, which come again inbuilt into your, let's say Windows comes with all of these, right? So do definitely use these. These are the basics. Then the modern approaches, you have things like endpoint detection response running on your laptop. Or again, Priya mentioned, I think she's stolen my thunder at the start itself. She's mentioned mobile device management or endpoint management, unified endpoint management, the types of SCCM, right, which can control and manage your devices. And MDM can be used on personal devices as well as corporate devices. Then you have a data loss prevention where you're trying to prevent your data from exiting your network or your endpoints, right? And then you have cloud access security brokers, which are CASB, right? The data loss prevention is a DLP, and CASB is to prevent data loss from cloud resources, right? And you have secure web gateways to block access to malicious websites, resources, and protect from drive-by attacks, phishing, those sort of things. And the last is your VPN. Right, these are your traditional security approaches which have been there. Now these are moving to more modern, current approaches where you have XDR, which is the extended detection response, which takes inputs data from all the endpoints where they are based. They take threat intelligence. They have AI built in, and these provide more comprehensive network security solutions, right? And we're moving from point solutions, standalone solutions, to a platform approach with AI enabled with automation. Like I mentioned, DLP, CASB, Secure Web Gateway, right? Then there's Firewall as a service. All of these you can get it in a tool called as a Security Service Edge. If you want all of them, you don't need to go in for a separate tool. You can just take it as a modular approach. You get all of these, right? And I already mentioned AI ML being required, but also behavioral analytics. Whether it is for your endpoints, your systems, or for your users, you got to have that there, right? And data security is becoming especially important. So you can look at solutions like a DSPM or a data security posture management classification, a lot of different tools, technologies, and processes for that. Right now, coming to your actual question, why I wanted to just give a brief background is so that people understand what I'm going to talk about, right? And I'm sure all of us have faced these issues, and you can look at them in the terms of the people, the process, and technology challenges which were faced during COVID, right? Firstly, we as employees are not prepared for the security implications of remote work. We're using our personal devices in some cases. We're using unsecured home Wi-Fi networks. People had Wi-Fi networks with the default passwords given by their ISPs, and also default admin and accounts and passwords for their routers, right? So those are largely unsecured. Also, phishing attacks surged because of our lack of awareness time, right? And there was a huge increase in the number of phishing attacks, ransomware attacks. When you look at the process, I'm aware of many companies which didn't VPNs, right? So even if I wanted to connect from my office laptop, if I had an office laptop, if I wanted to connect from home, there was no secure way of doing it, right? You didn't have DLP solutions or a CASB solution. I could extract data from my company's corporate resources, SaaS network applications, or even endpoints, right? Even companies which had VPNs, right? They all, and this is invariably almost 95%, 98% of companies had an issue of throttle the VPN or onto their network resources, network bandwidth was constricted, right? So even if you had, still many companies are still working on laptops, sorry, on desktops. So they didn't have laptops which could be used by the employees, corporate managed devices from their homes. So a lot of employees ended up using personal devices which lack any corporate controls or security tooling over there, right? And all of this led to a lack of visibility, lack of control, and monitoring for security teams. And there was literally a struggle to get the tools, the processes, the people awareness set up, and also due to lockdowns, getting laptops became a real challenge, right? There was always, you play China to wherever your employees are based. And that could be anywhere, not necessarily where your office is located, right? And what I saw is that companies which had already adopted remote work, which had a mix of cloud on-prem uh, applications and data, right, and which were already employing SaaS offerings, and most importantly, which had practiced remote work. You'll see a lot of banks, financial once a month, once a week. So this is already practiced as a business continuity approach. Those companies did well.
Got it. Perfect. And I think this was such a comprehensive answer, Rakesh. And in your answer, I did see the mention of AI powered multiple times, right? Which uh, which tells us that we are now shifting towards an AI first world, right? And so, how have these challenges evolved in today's AI first world? And what types of endpoint attacks are you observing specifically enabled or amplified by AI?
Right. Yes. So I've been guilty of, falling into the hype and using AI far too often right now. But you're right. AI is a transformational technology, right? Whether we like it or we don't, I think it's on the same scale, and this is my personal view, as, let's say, electricity, right? Or the steam engine or the ice engine. This is a transformational technology. It is going to change things. You can either adopt to it or we fall behind, right? So what do we do in this case? You have to see this from 2 points, right? AI has enabled and made both sides stronger in the cyber battle. It has made attackers stronger faster. It has made defenders stronger and faster. And it's always a cat and mouse game, right? Attackers are focused on the end goal which they have. Security, we have a lot of other things that we have to also meet, right? Expectations from regulators, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. You're always a step or two behind. And if you're a step or two behind, I'd say that's a great situation to be in. So where are we seeing attackers adopting AI is in amplifying the attacks, in accelerating the attacks. You're seeing the attack velocity increasing exponentially, right? The attacks are becoming far more personalized, believable. You are able to create hyper personalized phishing. Spear phishing, deepfake videos, deepfake audios are so believable that you can't trust yourself. right? You have to go back and check with the supposed original source. Is it really you? Have you asked me for this? Because it's become difficult to identify, right? Attackers are also using AI to rapidly find and exploit vulnerabilities at scale, right? Earlier, I would have had to do a lot of these attacks manually. Now I can deploy them at scale using AI. You are using AI to create more polymorphic malware, which evolves to escape detection. You can't now rely on just signature based or heuristic based scanning, right? And it's also made launching cybercrime ransomware as a service easy, right? And what I've heard from CISOs whose companies have been attacked and who have dealt with threat actors is that they find the customer service from cyber criminals to be better than that offered by most companies, right? Now, on the defender side, we are also responding to these challenges. We are now using tools, security tools are being enhanced with AI, with machine learning to analyze vast amounts of data in real time. You have security co-pilots, you have tools which have security agents, AI agents built into those tools, right? You're using AI ML to detect anomalies, your indicators of attack, your indicators of compromise. You're being able to reduce the time taken to detect data breaches, to detect attacks, and automate part of the responses, predict threats. All of this is now using AI. What we're seeing now is your security operation centers are increasingly become automated, are increasingly relying on AI. And this is also leading to the shift to integrated security platforms, because that gives you the ability to stitch together all your data, and you can correlate signals across environments, across systems, across tools. And if you stick to a standalone, and I know a lot of CISOs, a lot of security professionals, a lot of technology, IT, infra folks will disagree with me, but the way I see it, the way forward is integrated platforms rather than best in class standalone products or tools. And all of these being enabled, whether you go in for a platform or a standalone tool, being enabled with AI, the insights, the prediction which AI can provide. And I think we're at the start of the AI journey. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that actually like really highlights how AI has shifted the threat landscape altogether. Attackers can now automate, scale, and even personalize attacks like never before, right? So, which tells us that AI empowers uh, attackers to be far more creative, right? Uh, if let's say attackers are using AI to get more creative and sophisticated, defenders must also adapt to it. So, have you, as a security leader and your team, developed any new strategies or frameworks for the organization prevention? Any example that you can share what's working these days within the organizations?
First thing, Priya, is that you need to look at it in two parts, right? There is AI in security, which is what the attackers and defenders are using AI in the security environments itself. The second is security of AI, right? Whether those, and when you talk about the security of AI part, there are three parts to it. One, the AI tools which you develop, AI tools which are procured, and a subset of these two which you use internally and which you use for your end users, right? You've got to look at each of these in a little sort of a different manner. Now, we have already spoken about the first part of AI in security, where the attackers and defenders use it. So let me focus on the security of AI, right? So here, when you look at it, the approaches become different. If you're developing an AI tool, you have much more control over it, right? You just got to ensure your traditional security controls around security, privacy, and risk are implemented. You're protecting both the IP, the code, as also the data controlled by it, and it's much more in your control, right? The moment you are procuring an AI tool or a service, it becomes goes beyond purely technology. You got to look at the procurement aspects. You got to look at the legal aspects. You got to look at the data retention policies. Are they using your corporate data for training the models? Is that data which is being used to train the models available through prompt engineering or through prompt attacks, right? Uh, are they going to use and retain the data of our customers if you're using a procured AI tool service for our customers, right? We're offering it further to our customers, or you're wrapping it or you're enhancing it and offering it. Is that data going to be used by the AI provider for their training, and are they again exposing the data inadvertently? Are folks, my employees using the data or the AI and giving corporate information? Am I using a personal chat GPT where the data is used for training, right? Or a Gemini, and I'm uploading corporate files to it, right? So it's a mix of, again, it comes back to the same three things: people, processes, and technology. You have to train your people, you have to improve your processes, and you have to deploy the right technologies. And what do you do? Again, I spoke of it. You have to adopt AI to fight these battles. You have to move to a platform solution instead of point tools, because standalone tools are not as effective as these integrated platforms now, right? For example, a standalone SIM will not be as useful or as beneficial as one which is integrated in XDR and a CNAP. And the
Hmm.
SIM is there at the base, right? And even if you want a SIM, you want something which has got a SOAR and UEBA capabilities integrated. That's a security orchestration, automation, automated response, or a user entity behavioral analytics tool, right? We've spoken of these a little earlier today also.
Yeah.
And AI tool security tools without AI will fall behind, will eventually fail. The second thing you have to look at is how your architecture is set up, your microsegmentation, your data segmentation, how your internal resources are collaborating, working with each other. Where is data being pulled? Is the data being secured based on whether it is private information, PII, PHI, PFI, your internal classification, right? Are you doing data classification? The last is you have to adopt a zero trust approach. This is a fundamental and strategic shift, right? Instead of trusting everything inside your network, you follow the zero trust model, which assumes no user, no device, or no request is inherently trustworthy. And there are further strategies that you can implement, right? The basics, the fundamentals of cyber hygiene, of your system hygiene don't go away, whether you use AI, whether you don't use AI, right? The foundational 101s, the basics, if you don't do, there's no point having the best AI enabled tool. You will fail. It's just a matter of time. And that's a guarantee I can give to anyone who doesn't focus on the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the like takeaway from this is that it's a constant process of evolving, defenses to match with the evolving threats, right?
Exactly. It's a constant process of improvement.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's take a quick and quick or short break here. And I like before we get into the other segment of this session and we talk about a few more topics that we have planned. There's a very quick, like rapid fire round that we have been doing for the last two sessions. So now we can officially call it a ritual. So we decided to keep it and keep doing it for the future sessions as well. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions. You have to answer them. All right.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, Rakesh, are you a coffee person or a tea person?
Coffee, without doubt. My entire family drink tea. I am the only coffee person.
Got it. What type of coffee, like black coffee or cappuccino or any?
Any coffee. Preference, if available, is filter coffee, but other than that, any coffee is fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. Filter coffee is my favorite too. Ever since I've shifted to Bangalore, so nice. Uh, one gadget that you cannot live without.
Unfortunately, that's my phone. I've tried getting rid of it. I've bought uh, a feature phone which has got no internet connectivity, and I couldn't use it for a day. Unfortunate but true. We are stuck with our phones, and it's like my command center, right? Your emails, calendar, notes, alerts, podcast, music, everything is in there.
Yeah, yeah. I think we are all guilty for this. All right. If hackers had a mascot, what animal would it be?
Right. So I think I would think of it in terms of white hat and your black hat actors. Black hat actors, hyenas, right? Sly, stealthy, just looking for an opportunity to cause chaos, wreak havoc, right? No, I'm not sure. White hat hackers, I don't know if the white hat hackers themselves will like this characterization, but I think you can think of them as bears, right? They're smart, they're resourceful, they're protective when needed, aggressive when needed, but maybe bears, right? All the white hat hackers out there don't jump on me and get after me for this, but yeah, it's my personal view.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. If cybersecurity had a theme song, what would it be?
So I think it would actually be three, four songs because if you think of cybersecurity itself, we have so many different parts, right? There's the defensive, there's the blue teams, the red teams, the purple teams, the pink teams. So I think just one song would be doing a disservice. The top one which comes to my mind is "We Didn't Start the Fire," right? Because in security we have to fight the fire, but we rarely ever start the fire. And that's a song by Billy Joel. I think another song would be uh, uh, "The Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor, right? Because you have to be resilient, you have to be vigilant all the time. Another one is "In the Army Now." That's always been a lifelong favorite of mine, and that comes from me having been in the army. But a lot of the qualities also required in cybersecurity: discipline, training, always being ready, being vigilant, right? And there's another song by Imagine Dragons called "Radioactive." That is what happens to security after a breach scenario, right? We are radioactive after that.
Amazing. I think this gives me an idea that we should create a, security leader playlist,
Playlist.
song playlist, and like I'm definitely going to add these three songs contributed by you. So thank you for answering that. Last question: if you were not a security leader, what job would you be doing?
I think either I would have been a legal professional or a personal finance professional because both of these are still passions of mine. And if I failed at those two, I think I would have gone into uh, maybe being a failed writer.
Yeah, I think all of us have a hidden writer inside us. Because I keep going back to my Apple Notes and see all these poems and whatnot written, and then I laugh at myself. Yeah, amazing. All right, so that was it for the rapid fire round. Let's get back to the topic for the session today, which is endpoint security. So we talked about AI powered attacks and all, right? Now let's talk about the human factor, right? uh, how critical is the role of end users in endpoint security today? Uh, no matter how advanced the tools are, people remain central to security, right? Uh, no AI has been able to automate the entire system, right? How critical is the role of end users in endpoint security today? Is human error still the weakest link, or has something else now become the bigger risk?
So I would say, irrespective of what happens, what technology we adopt, how the future turns out, end users are always going to be absolutely critical. This will never change, right? Every individual in the company is a security asset and a first line of defense. At the same time, each of us are also the first potential point of failure, right? You give despite the number of cyber attacks which are happening, the scale at which they are growing. If you look at it, a lot of the attacks are very simple. They're phishing, their business email compromise. They're asking people to click on files, install malware, or share information without realizing. Right? The purely technical zero-day attacks form a very small fraction of this. The overall number of attacks. Right? So security strategy should focus on empowering users through gamified training, awareness, continuous awareness on a regular basis, looking at our employees as partners and treating them as partners, right? We should encourage reporting and not use punishment as a default response. In fact, a lot of times I get this feedback from businesses: why are you not punishing people? I'm like, even in very serious cases, unless it is malicious or it is done to cause issues, I would say the punishment should not be the first response, and definitely letting go of people should not be a for default response, because the lessons they've learned is going to be useful to some other company then, right? So treat them as partners, not as liabilities. And if you do this, you will find that your employees actually reciprocate beyond one's own expectations, right? That is the trust. That is at the same time, like we say in security, trust but verify. So the
Yeah.
second counterpoint, the opposite side of the coin, at the same time, implement robust insider threat mechanisms. That is non-negotiable, right? So you have to do both. You can't do one or the other. Unfortunately, a lot of security professionals take that approach of no, of not trusting your users, and that seeps through to everyone, and they see that from your attitude, your approach, your responses. So that I would say a two-phase, two-coin approach, sides of the coin approach would be useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very powerful reminder for all of us that technology can only go so far if uh, human and human behavior does not align with the security practices, right? And now speaking of technology, right? Uh, uh, speaking of technology with respect to the endpoint security, antivirus software was, one of the earliest and most recognizable endpoint security solutions, right? In modern enterprises where threats are, even far more complex, how relevant is traditional antivirus today? Do companies still actively use it, and if so, in what capacity?
I think we need to draw a distinction here, right? A lot of times, security professionals, security providers, security companies, the tool technology companies, they bring a lot of technology, they bring a lot of processes which are focused on large enterprises, because those are the businesses which have the large security budgets and can afford a lot of those uh, new adoption of tools. But when you actually look at the environment, you have from individuals, solopreneurs, mom and pop shops, small, micro, medium enterprises, to large size enterprises, companies, and then the huge enterprises, right? So if you look at the large enterprises, the conglomerates, they have moved on from antivirus to things like XDR and a lot of other tools which we spoke about. Individuals, mom and pop shops, micro enterprises, startups definitely still need antivirus. But don't just look at signature based detection. You need to go in for ones which antivirus tools which have behavioral analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud based analytics, a bit of threat intelligence, memory, kernel monitoring, right? Also, automated response remediation. These sound like a lot. They are available commercially for individual users and are very reasonable. I personally have got antivirus installed in all my near and dear my family members in their phones, their laptop, personal laptops. I have, and I use Bitdefender for all of them. Right, I just take a package and I get it installed on everyone's phones and laptops. Right, so for individuals, for small startups, definitely absolutely essential, and also some more tools, not just an antivirus, right? But I would say antivirus non-negotiable. If you can't afford more advanced tools, right? Another one, use a firewall which come with your uh, Windows laptops, or you can get them for Linux and all. Definitely do use them, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You mentioned about using some other tools on top of your antiviruses, right? While like larger enterprises often have the budget to deploy advanced solutions. We talked about MDM, DLP, etc., right? But smaller organizations face tighter constraints, right? If you had to advise a smaller business who's taking its first steps into endpoint security, what should their priorities be, where they should start from to get the most impact?
So that's actually a simple sounding question, but it answers very detailed. I actually gave a 1 hour talk on this at some seminar, right? And the deck for that is there on my LinkedIn profile. You can go check it out. But let me try and distill it into something which won't take the rest of the meeting. So I think again, it comes back to the basics, right? First, assess your business environment. What are your regulatory requirements and what are your customer expectations? If you don't know what your business is doing, you can't provide security, right? Understanding this gives you a baseline in terms of compliance, security, data privacy, third-party risk management, business resilience, business continuity, all of those. That gives you your cyber security strategy, right? It doesn't have to be detailed. It can be a one-page strategy. Even for our company, we have a one-page strategy which flows into a more detailed three-pager, into more detailed security plans, programs, roadmaps, right? That is the way you have to go about it. Start small, keep expanding. Again, basics, foundations, cyber hygiene. Ensure passwords are set and you don't using default passwords. Whether it is admin accounts, whether it is individual accounts, ensure password rotation is done. Do not go in for password reuse. Don't use the same passwords you use for delivery apps for your admin account on the cloud, right? Because one breach, everything goes. And I'm telling you, despite what you may see, it keeps happening again and again and again. Password and credential reuse happens. One breach anyway, and everything gets compromised. Focus on that. Where possible, use passkeys, right? Instead of passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication everywhere. If the feature is available, enable it. It is meant for security. It is an inconvenience, but enable it. I've kept repeating this. Use the built-in anti-malware, antivirus firewalls, which are available with your system. Patch systems regularly, patch your applications regularly. A simple but essential thing, which is often and almost always overlooked, right? Uh, then what else can you do? Don't use pirated software. You'll be amazed at the number of companies I've come across while auditing them or while implementing security for acquired companies earlier who are using pirated software. That I can assure you there is somebody already sitting malicious actor in your network, in your systems, if you're doing that. Do not allow account sharing. I know that leads to additional costs, but if you allow account sharing, you don't know whose account has been compromised. Whether it is malicious or whether it's unintentional, you don't know where the compromises happen. You don't know where to take action, right? Don't use secure defaults. Apply role-based access control. Apply least privilege principles. Try and adopt data segmentation, zero trust approach. Don't have everyone having an admin account only when necessary, right? You close your network ports which are not needed. Don't use insecure protocols like FTP, HTTP. You have better ones like secure FTP. You have secure HTTP, HTTPS, right? So use all of those. Don't use TLS1 when you have moved on to newer protocols. All right. Turn off your remote desktop protocols. Turn off remote access tools. Try and avoid using tools like TeamViewer, AnyDesk, VNC. And if you're using these, ensure that they're secured appropriately. They have minimal access and they are not turned on by default. And uh, their default settings are not the ones they're using, right? uh, if you're a software company, if you're using the tools, if you're developing tools, check your software dependencies, right? Patch for those. And despite all of this, I can assure you security issues will pop up. Have a basic incident response plan. A lot of mature organizations, Atlassian, Googles of the world, have published their incident response policies, their plans publicly. Use those, adapt it to your requirements, right? You don't need to go and get a big four consulting company to do this for you. You can do it on your own. All right. And I think that's a basic portion. Then I also mentioned you have to look at what is your regulatory, your legal environment you're operating in. That is a key driver, right? You'll hear a lot of times compliance is not equal to security. I would twist it a little bit. I would say compliance and security are complementary. You can't have one without the other, right? So whether your endpoint security is to, whether your compliance requirements are GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, or in India, certain RBI, SEBI regulations, that is going to be a guiding factor and a deciding factor for your security strategy. I know you asked a simple question and I'm answering it in a very detailed way, but that is the nature of the beast, right? So while prevention is the goal, you also have to have a response strategy. And a NIST cybersecurity framework is very useful for this, along with a lot of other frameworks, right? You can adopt, and there are a huge number of frameworks you can actually go and adopt for these NIST cybersecurity framework, NIST 850T, privacy framework, risk management framework, ISO 27000, ISO 31000 for risk, right? ISO 27701 for privacy. You can do 22301 for your business continuity. You have COBIT, CIS, ITIL. It's an alphabet soup of confusion, right? Distill down from the basics. What is it that your business environment, your regulatory environment, and your customers require? You will be able to assess which is the framework you should adopt, right? And last but not the least, an incident response plan is absolutely essential. When uh, things are chaotic, you can't then decide what to do. You need to know what is required to be done beforehand. It has to be exercised, it has to be communicated. And then when things are bad, you at least know what to do.
Wow, that was such a comprehensive answer, and the answer in itself is a masterclass.
Thanks,
So
Priya.
wow, thanks for answering it in such a detailed way. That was amazing. Uh, I have this is the last question, and I just rolled out a poll for our audience today. Uh, in the next 3-5 years, looking ahead, what do you see as the future of endpoint security? Will AI be more of a challenge and an opportunity, or both? By looking at the poll results, it it is leaning more towards both. But yeah, I would love to understand what do you think?
I think it will be both. It will be a challenge and it will be an enabler also. We have to adopt it because adversaries are adopting it, right? And when you look at endpoint security, I see the differentiation between endpoint security, cloud security, network security melting away, right? If you look at a SSE tool, is it a endpoint security tool? The agent lies on your endpoint, but it has a CASB portion which looks at your cloud. It has a secure web gateway which protects access to your SaaS applications, right? So it is both. It's melting the differentiation between cloud, network, and endpoint security. I think this is going to increase. You now have tools, XDR tools, which are not purely XDR. They have a CNAP module, which can protect your entire cloud assets. It could be a cloud identity or entitlement management, cloud workload protection, cloud security posture management, and your XDR, your SSE, your CNAP, your DSPM, all are flowing back into your SIM. SIM is now a commodity tool, right? You get it as part of other tools because you don't need it standalone, right? And this is the way the platform approach and AI enablement and security not being siloed, where you have a network security tool, a IAM team, you have an endpoint security team. No, it's all going to be uh, melded into each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it will be a mix of challenges and opportunity, but yeah, uh, the like what's clear is that like proactive strategies and and adaptive tools will definitely make the difference, right?
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for answering that. Now,
I think we
with
have a
that,
question in the Q&A also.
yeah,
Which
yeah, I was
states, yeah.
coming to that. Yeah,
Uh,
we do have a couple of questions, some questions in the chat, and let's address the one that's there in the Q&A chat. What mistakes did companies make during the remote transition that they are still paying for today?
I think I was thinking of this while we've been talking, right? Because I saw the question. So I think it is the explosion of data and the explosion of the external surface, right? both these together, the amount of data companies have and the number of devices, resources which are accessing, we are allowing access from, is led to an explosion in our external attack surface. Right, we are giving this far larger surface area, opportunities, systems, tools, and applications for attackers to target, to exploit. Right, the entire digitalization which has been forced upon a lot of companies in a very short time has led to this explosion of our attack surface, and that I think is something a lot of companies are still facing a challenge with. Data is messy, uh, and an excellent resource to look at this is your uh, data management book of knowledge, right? Which has data security also a part, but if you follow that, it can resolve a lot of your issues around data. And if your data is messy, is dirty, your AI adoption is also going to be messy and dirty. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Right.
Hope that answered your question. All right, there's one question in the chat, which is the best endpoint security solutions? They have given a few options: Trend Micro, CrowdStrike, or Sentinel-1.
There is no best endpoint security solution. The best endpoint security solution is the one which best meets your requirements of your company. Right? No vendor will meet it. Each could be different. And now it also depends on what is the tool you require. If I'm a small company, I can't afford any of these. Right? For me, Windows Defender, the Microsoft Defender basic antivirus on my Windows laptops, and the Windows firewall which comes inbuilt, maybe the best tool. So it is very situational. It is very case specific. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, but that is the fact.
Yeah, I hope, Vipul, that answered your question. Yeah, there's another question in the chat. Do you see hybrid work, uh, like companies who are operating part-time, part remote, part office, right, as a long-term security challenge? And if so, like, should companies prepare differently compared to a company that is fully remote or fully in office?
So if you had asked me this a few years back before COVID, I would have said mostly yes. Right? There were a few companies which were ready for remote work. Most were not. Now, I think 5 years after that, most companies have gone through it. Hybrid work is not a challenge, right? And I would say a company which is not adopting a hybrid approach is actually a fossil or a relic of the older ages, right? Because you're not going to get the best employees if you force everyone to come and work from office. You perforce have to offer work from home. And if you have to offer work from home or a hybrid environment as part of your offering, you better ensure that security keeps up with it and not look at it as a challenge. It is part of our role, and we can and should be able to address it.
Perfect. We have another question from Amit. I believe that in cybersecurity, the challenge is that users and devices are often compromised and we have limited control over it. What are your thoughts on this perspective, and how do you think organizations can address this issue effectively?
Right. Everything in technology, everything in security comes down to PTT, right? People, processes, and technology. So you have to look at every challenge you come across in this framework. It helps distill down things and give you uh, actionable insights. So in this case, you have to train your people, you have to empower them, you have to give them the resources and the tools to uh, be able to deal with this, right? I'm assuming the Amit is talking of your personal devices because corporate devices have some security controls, have some controls inbuilt over that. You have to now enable BYOD. How do you do that? You have to ensure that you have tools like MDM to restrict access to your resources, your SSC, Secure Web Gateway, CASB. All of these can protect your resources from users using their own devices, right? If a device is insecure, my MDM or other tools can prevent access, can block access, and also provide a modicum of security to my employees by telling them your device is insecure, device is compromised, right? Now, credentials, I've spoken about this credential reuse. I know it is impossible to remember passwords for so many applications, services which we use, whether corporate or personal, right? Uh, Not the best approach, but if you don't have access to a password manager, whether company provided or your personal, I would say you can look at two approaches, right? One is note down your passwords. Again, I'm saying it's not the best, but you have to work with what you have. You could note it down in a password protected file or a password protected cloud resource, or you can just write it down in a diary, make sure the diary is then locked. Be aware both can be stolen. The other approach is look at silos, right? All your delivery applications, your mobility applications, Uber or your those sort of things have one set of passwords. So if one gets compromised, you know what else is going to get compromised, right? For your email, for your sensitive, let's say online storage, use one set of passwords, right? If you can remember more passwords, try and create more silos. These are practical approaches, not a security approach.
Got it. I hope that answered your question, Amit. He has asked a follow-on question. Do you believe that application virtualization effectively addresses the challenges of user and device security, or are there limitations to this approach?
Anything we do and everything we do will have its pros and cons. There is no silver bullet, right? Application virtualization, yes, it can help. But if your cloud environment is not secured, there's no point, right? So you have to see it within the context where it works. If you have standardized containers, if you have IAC being rolled out securely, it can help, right? But again, can every application be virtualized? It depends, right? If you have organizations which still have monolithic applications, and many do, trust me, many are still working on Windows XP, right? When next to next month, Windows 10 is going to be out or end of life, you still have companies using Windows XP. So you have to see it in context of where you are. It, you have to be able to, you can't take a monolithic application and virtualize it. It's not possible, right? Switching over from a monolithic application to a microservices architecture is a huge multi-year project. So if you are cloud native, if you are already structured with microservices architecture and your endpoints don't have any resources, you don't have on-prem servers, you don't have on-prem firewalls, networks, absolutely. If implemented well, it will address all of your security challenges. But if you look at the cloud, the largest chunk of security issues are not technology issues, are not security issues. It is misconfiguration itself. So you deploy everything and you misconfigure it, there's no point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, Amit says thanks for your answer. So we have another question. If you're okay taking them up. All right. So the question is from Arihant. Do you think hardware level security will eventually replace software-based endpoint protection?
Sorry, there's some firecrackers going off in the background, so I'm not sure if you can hear it. All right. So I don't think hardware level security will replace software security, software-based endpoint security. It is complementing and it is already complementing, right? So if you see Windows 11, it requires you to use TPM 2.0 for being able to install it. But before that, you had TPM already there in older systems, right? So you have biometric access for a lot of laptops already. You have facial recognition. So it's all complementary. You can't say that it will be hardware based, it will be software based, it will be complementary, right? So I wouldn't agree to the replacement thing, but definitely, yes, hardware level security is important. It will be complementary to software based security. There's also a question I see from Adarsh about Bitdefender EDR. I cannot comment on that because I will only comment on what I use personally. Bitdefender, I use the total security for my personal accounts. And because I use that, I recommend it. I get nothing from them. I have no association with them. In the past, I have also used Avira and AVG. and a few of them. But currently, I use Bitdefender. It meets most of my requirements, and all of those points an antivirus should have, it meets. But their EDR for corporate resources, I have no view on. And that is also why I did not answer Vipul's question directly, because I am vendor agnostic. I neither like nor dislike any vendor. I'm happy with all of them as long as they meet my requirements, specific requirements at a specific point of time.
Perfect. I don't think we have any other question, and which brings us to the end of the session. And it's 9:02 now, so I think good time to end the session as well. Thank you so much, Rakesh, for agreeing to do this. And I'm sure everyone in the audience have taken notes. I personally have learned a lot through this session, especially being into the security domain for the past 1 year. I, been trying to learn more and more things about cybersecurity. So that was definitely helpful for me as well. Thank you, everyone else who joined, asked questions. If you want to get in touch with Rakesh, you can join the community, or you can find him on LinkedIn. Do connect with him. He's very cordial and responds to all my requests or questions if I have any. So thank you, Rakesh, again for doing this. It was such a wonderful session.
My pleasure, Priya, and thanks to you and Astra for inviting me. And thank you, everyone, for bearing with me for the last hour. And wish you all a good and happy cybersecurity journey. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. I am a little delayed in responding, despite what Priya said. Do bear with me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. And Rakesh, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a great time. Bye-bye.